What's up, everyone? Welcome to the April 19th edition of FanDuel Tournament Plays presented by PrizePicks. I'm your host, Adam Scherer. You can follow me on Twitter at ShipMyMoneyDFS. And as a reminder, you get one free month of Awesemo plus Platinum when you sign up and make a deposit at PrizePicks. Be sure to use the code Awesemo to receive a 100% first deposit bonus up to $100. Today, we're going to take a look at three of the top tournament stacks and three of the top tournament pitchers on FanDuel using the top stacks tool and the top pitchers tool on the Awesemo.com website. Starting with the top stacks, coming in at number 3, the Los Angeles Dodgers are projected for 2% aggregate ownership with a 4% chance of being the top scoring stack. They have a difficult matchup against Max Fried. They only have a 4.4 implied run total, but we know how good the Dodgers are. And even though Fried himself is a very good pitcher, since the start of last season, Fried has struck out 23.3% of hitters. He has a 3.42 xFIP. He's a very difficult matchup. But anytime you're getting virtually no ownership on a lineup that is expected to have Mookie Betts, Freddie Freeman, Trey Turner, Justin Turner, Max Muncy, Will Smith, Cody Bellinger, who appears capable of hitting baseballs again. Just a really, really deep lineup. That wasn't to mention Chris Taylor and probably Gavin Lux. Just a really deep lineup, tons and tons of power. I love targeting spots like this, regardless of who the opposing pitcher is, just because they're so good and they're not getting ownership. They're still a relatively high percentage of the time that hitters that good are just going to have success. And, maybe later on in the game, they can do some damage against the Braves bullpen once they get freed out of there. Number 2, the Houston Astros projected for 3% ownership with a 5% chance of being the top scoring stack. They're facing Patrick Sandoval and the Los Angeles Angels. They also have a 4.4 implied run total. Sandoval's another just solid left-handed pitcher going for the Angels. He has a 26.4% strikeout percentage as a starter since the beginning of last season, a 3.72 xFIP over that time. But similarly to the Dodgers, the Astros are just a really dangerous offense as well. Sandoval's going to win out a decent amount of the time, but the Astros are going to do some damage as well, other times. So getting them at about 3% aggregate ownership when you can get to Jose Altuve, Alex Bregman, Yuli Gurriel, and then, not to mention the left-handed bats like Brantley, Alvarez, and Tucker. Just a very high upside lineup that if they're able to get to Sandoval early, you could certainly see them put up some big numbers. And number 1, another team with a 4.4 implied run total in a difficult matchup. The Toronto Blue Jays projected for 2% ownership with a 6% chance of being the top scoring stack. They're facing Nathan Eovaldi in Fenway Park. Eovaldi is a good pitcher. Again, kind of the theme here is that there's some really good offenses facing some really good pitchers today. The Blue Jays are one of them. Eovaldi has struck out 25.8% of hitters, 3.45 xFIP since the beginning of last season. In addition, he's only allowed 0.89 home runs per 9 innings. It's unlikely that the Blue Jays have success here, but when they do, they have so much upside, so much power in this lineup that they can really put up a lot of fantasy points and make it worthwhile. When the Blue Jays do well, you will make a lot of money, even though more often than not, they're not going to do well in a spot like this. If you consistently are willing to target high upside offenses at low ownership and kind of put aside concerns about the matchup, then over the course of an entire baseball season, you're basically allowing variance to work in your favor, and you're going to put yourself in some favorable positions. Now, looking at the top 3 tournament pitchers on FanDuel, starting at number 3, Framber Valdez facing the Los Angeles Angels, projected for 6% ownership with a 7% chance of being the top scoring pitcher. The Angels have a 3.6 implied run total. Valdez is not a great strikeout pitcher. Since the start of last season, he has only struck out 21.9% of hitters, but he does have a 3.58 xFIP. He does an extremely good job of keeping the ball on the ground and of avoiding hard contact. And on FanDuel, strikeouts aren't quite as important as they are on a site like DraftKings because you do get bonus points for a quality start, and the win is weighted a little bit heavier. So somebody like Valdez, who doesn't rack up strikeouts at the same rate as some of his counterparts in his price range, he is typically going to be a little bit more efficient with his pitches. He does have a high walk rate as well, so that cuts into that a little bit. But if you're pitching the contact, you're typically not going to be going as deep into counts, and that can certainly help him get through the 6-inning mark. Number 2, Joe Musgrove is very expensive on FanDuel. He's one of the most popular pitchers on DraftKings, but on FanDuel, he's only getting 7% ownership because he's $11,000. He has a 9% chance of being the top scoring pitcher. He's got an excellent matchup against the Cincinnati Reds, who only have a 3.1 implied run total. Musgrove has a very high ceiling, striking out 27.5% of the hitters that he has faced since the beginning of last season. He has a very respectable 3.5 xFIP as well, and the Reds are just a very weak lineup. So you're overpaying in the sense that you can find similar upside for cheaper on FanDuel, but paying up to be contrarian here and hoping that you get an excellent start out of Musgrove is not a bad approach to take at this projected ownership. And number one, Walker Bueller, $9,700 price tag, 6% ownership with a 9% chance of being the top scoring pitcher. He's facing the Atlanta Braves, who we know are a dangerous offense, but they do only have a 3.7 implied run total. Bueller is a really good pitcher. Strikeout percentage since the beginning of last year at 25.7%, only walks about 6.5% of hitters, has only allowed 0.82 home runs per nine, and has a 3.6 xFIP over that time. It's not a particularly expensive price tag at 9,700, and you're just taking your chances on a very good pitcher in a tough matchup when seemingly nobody else is going to want to go there. So to recap, the top three tournament stacks on tonight's FanDuel slate: number three, the Los Angeles Dodgers; number two, the Houston Astros; and number one, the Toronto Blue Jays. And the top three pitchers: number three, Framber Valdez; number two, Joe Musgrove; and number one, Walker Bueller.